At a time of massive and unprecedented income and wealth inequality, the Republicans look around them and they say, wow, we got three people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Very richest people are becoming phenomenally richer. Working people are struggling. What's the solution? Well, obviously, the solution is to give massive tax breaks to the rich and make a very bad situation even worse.
Every one of them voted for that bill. How did that bill become law, you ask? Did it get 60 votes? Rigorous debate? No. They did it through reconciliation. And Kamala Harris broke the tie-breaking vote so that multimillionaires could have their fifth vehicle parked in Palm Beach with a check for $7,500 thanks to the U.S. taxpayer.
Oh, you are seriously not going to believe what just happened on the Senate floor. Bernie Sanders came in ready to lecture everyone about billionaires and inequality, like it's still 1987, and he got completely shut down. Not just criticized, not just argued with, completely shut down. Senator Bernie Moreno brought out proof, facts, and even a Rolls-Royce example. And by the time he finished, Sanders looked like he had just seen a calculator for the first time. Stay with me, because this one is really good. And hey, if you're new here, press that subscribe button right now because this is spreading fast, and I don't want you to miss anything. We are not slowing down. New videos come out all the time, and I don't want you to fall behind. Now, let's get into it.
It is apparently not good enough that the top 1% today own more wealth than the bottom 90%. That is rather phenomenal. But in my Republican colleagues' eyes, the wealthy and the powerful need even more help. 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%, just not good enough. We could do better than that. So not only should the very wealthy be asked to pay their fair share of taxes, the Republicans believe that we should give huge tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires.
I think we need to kind of go back in time for just a little bit, not quite as much as in Back to the Future. Let's just go back to 2020. There was an election in 2020. The Democrats gained control of the Senate and the White House. And what's been the result? During the 4 years of President Trump, his first term, it was never better for working class Americans. Real wage growth grew. The middle class was doing better. Our economy was doing fantastic. The Republicans had passed the TCJA, which gave tax relief to all Americans. And we received, and this is very important, the federal government received a record amount of revenue. So even though there was tax cuts for the wealthy was the headline. By the way, that line is as old as dirt, and it's totally false. While the tax rates were cut, tax revenue was at a record level. It would be fascinating if there was just one Democrat that acknowledged that we received a record amount of revenue in the federal coffers. Do you think to yourself, well, wait a second. Like, I'm a business guy. Like, if my revenue was at an all-time high and I was losing money, I'd say we have a huge expense problem. Like, oh my God, how could I get record revenue and yet have record deficits? Why? Because when you give Democrats control of our budget, what happens? I'll give you some examples. When my colleagues talk about how they defend the working class, I think the working class spoke pretty clearly on November 5th of 2024 and said, thank you, but no thank you. So what can happen in my old world of owning car dealerships? Mr. Chairman, you could walk into one of my dealerships, be a multimillionaire, pick out a beautiful custom-made Rolls-Royce Spectre where the audio system upgrade is $21,000. The logoed headrest in the back seat are $1,500. The umbrella with a logo could be 10 grand. You can lease that car. And thanks to the amazing and remarkable policies from the Democrat Party, the federal government will give you a check for $7,500. Think about that for just a second. That is a bill that became law called the Inflation Reduction Act, giving Rolls-Royce lease customers $7,500 lowers inflation, and every one of them voted for that bill. How did that bill become law, you ask? Did it get 60 votes? Rigorous debate? No. They did it through reconciliation. And Kamala Harris broke the tie-breaking vote so that multimillionaires could have their fifth vehicle parked in Palm Beach with a check for $7,500 thanks to the U.S. taxpayer.
So here's what happened. Bernie Sanders is doing his usual thing, pointing fingers, talking about wealth inequality, saying the top 1% owns more than the bottom 90%, the same line he's been repeating since the Cold War. And look, I understand, Bernie. You have your favorite lines, you stick to your script. But today he chose the wrong place. Because Senator Bernie Moreno, a man who did not grow up in politics, he grew up building things, stood up and did something you almost never see in a congressional hearing. He used logic, he used math, he used real-world facts, and he turned the whole argument back on the Democrats. First, Moreno takes us back to Trump's first term, and this matters. During those 4 years, real wages went up. The middle class was doing better. The economy was running very strong. And here's the part the mainstream media often ignores. Tax money going to the federal government reached record levels, record highs, after a tax cut. Now, I want you to stop and think about that for a second, because Bernie and his group have been telling us for years that cutting taxes makes the government lose money. That's their main argument. That's the base of the tax the rich idea. And Moreno just came in, looked at the real numbers, and said, that is completely wrong. When you cut taxes, the economy grows. When the economy grows, more people have jobs, more businesses succeed, and guess what? More tax money comes in. It's not magic, it's basic economics. But to Bernie Sanders, it might as well sound like magic. But then, and this is the part you really need to pay attention to, Moreno brings up the Rolls-Royce example. And I'm telling you, this is one of the best arguments I have ever seen on a Senate floor. He explains that under the Democrats' so-called Inflation Reduction Act, the one Kamala Harris helped pass with a tie-breaking vote, a millionaire can go into a car dealership, lease a Rolls-Royce Spectre with a $21,000 sound system upgrade, $1,500 headrest with logos, and a $10,000, yes, a $10,000 umbrella. And the federal government will give that person a $7,500 check paid by U.S. taxpayers. Think about that. The Inflation Reduction Act, the bill that was presented to working Americans as help, as fairness, as a way to control the rich. That bill is actually giving money to millionaires to lease luxury electric cars, and every Democrat in that room voted for it. That is not helping the working class. That is giving benefits to big companies with a green label on it. And Moreno said it right in front of them in their own hearing, with Sanders sitting there unable to respond. Here's what really gets me about the socialist approach. It always sounds good until someone checks the facts. Bernie talked about fairness and equality because it sounds good in short clips. It gets people excited. It brings in donations. But the moment someone with real business experience sits in front of him and explains what these policies actually do in real life, the whole idea falls apart. The working class understood this. November 5th, 2024 made that very clear. People are tired of being lectured by career politicians who have never built anything, never signed a paycheck, never had to manage paying workers. They want results. They want growth. They want a government that steps back and lets Americans build something. Moreno didn't just win that moment. He showed exactly why the conservative economic argument makes sense. When you trust people with their own money, they create things. When you trust the government with everyone's money, you get a $7,500 check going to a person with a Rolls-Royce and a $10,000 umbrella. Write a comment below. I want to know what stood out more to you, the record tax money point or that Rolls-Royce example, because both were very strong. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this. New videos are coming all the time, and I don't want you to fall behind. I'll see you in the next one.